Hi, I'm Vince Molinari, and welcome to Fintech TV. We're broadcasting from the iconic New York Stock Exchange, and I'd like to welcome a very special guest today, Gabriela Barospi, who's also known as Gabby Wall Street. She's the founder of Latino Wall Street. Gabby, welcome to the Fintech TV. Welcome to the New York Stock Exchange.
Thank you so much, Vince. I'm very happy, excited, and grateful to be here with you.
Well, the gratitude is ours, and I am so happy today. We're announcing our partnership, Fintech TV, Latino Wall Street, coming together to unify, collaborate, create content. Thankful to you and Tony. We're very excited about the beginning of this journey.
Thank you so much for being such a great partner. We're so happy to be joining officially and to be launching this new show.
Well, look, and I think we have to check with the New York Stock Exchange archives, but we're going to be doing Spanish-speaking segments, shows, and I think it's the first time on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange that there's been a dedicated Spanish-speaking language show.
Yes, and I think that's crucial because the Latino community is growing so much in the United States, and there's such a huge addressable market. So to be able to deliver also, the financial content and education in Spanish, I think it's a huge expansion thing for FinTech.
Well, great expansion for us, and frankly, great expansion and visibility for the New York Stock Exchange as we continue to bridge communities and create that content. When we talk about 400 million Spanish-speaking people, that is an amazing potential audience. So we're very grateful to partner. I'd love if you can frame for us a little bit, the vision of Latino Wall Street, why you started it, and really the mission.
Yeah, so basically the idea started a long time ago when I attended NYU, and my dorm was very close to Wall Street, and I was exposed to that world since I was literally a teenager, right? Like I was a student, and very soon I realized there was something missing, right, in the Wall Street market and the investment world, is that there were not enough women and there were not enough Latinos. Right? Like that was obvious. So I had that idea since a very young age, but I didn't take action on it until 2019 when we officially opened Latino Wall Street. I just had to meet the right partner, and I actually met Tony, and he had all the skills I didn't have, like software and all these things that I needed to actually launch this great platform. And we did it because we saw there was a huge gap in the market. There were no actual leaders in the investment world, finance world, delivering this education in our native language. And we saw there's a huge opportunity, not just for us, but for them, because they didn't have the skills and the things I had, and I was very fortunate to be exposed to that since I was literally a student, right? When I was 18 and I started going to school in New York City. Most people don't have that access, that opportunity, that circle. So I really thought about it for the longest time until we actually did it. And when we did it, it was almost like overnight, right, that thousands of people reacted to it. Online, we went viral very quickly because there was obviously a missing gap, and people need this. No matter what you do in life, you're going to need skills to manage your money, to be able to invest, diversify, protect your money. Something is always going to happen in a period of a lifetime, so you need to be prepared for that. And the fact that there was so much lack of education in our communities, made us be a stand for it. So that's why we opened Latino Wall Street.
No, and to your point, so sorely needed, financial literacy and education across the spectrum, but your ability to deliver that in native language to have greater consumption and adoption, I think, was really a big differentiation in what you set out to do.
Yes, 100%. So we could have just said, we're going to, focus on our Latino community, but in English. But the whole point was that the missing information was in Spanish, right? Because I realized living in New York City for such a long time that it was almost like this known thing. People knew exactly what Wall Street was, how it worked. Even if you were very young, you had the exposure and the knowledge, at least basic knowledge. But in Spanish, there was nothing, zero. Like, people didn't even know what Wall Street was, or that they could even be part of it and access it and buy their first share. They had no idea. They thought it was like the most impossible, faraway thing, only for billionaires. And it's been democratized. Maybe at some point, when there was no internet, it was very different to be a shareholder, but now anyone could do it. So just being able to bring that, the whole world, completely new to them, I think has been a major, paradigm shift in a lot of people's lives.
And you make a great point, Gabby, when we talk about democratization, right? Democratization is so much information, education, access to the capital, but I think one of the things that I really applaud Latino Wall Street for is the democratization to be able to create wealth and financial planning and that piece of education that allows people to plan for their futures, and whether that's their own retirement or education, weddings, all the kind of things, but to realize that there's a pathway to wealth creation that wasn't necessarily available to the community prior to a lot of this.
Yes, planning for your future, it's crucial. If you don't do it, and if your parents, don't have the knowledge and they don't do it for you, then literally nobody's going to do it. I started very young in this world because, again, I was exposed to it since I was 18. But when I met my Wall Street friends who were young, in their 20s, and they were trading the stock market, I realized they had actually started since before they were born because their parents had the knowledge. So I felt like, oh wow, I discovered this at 18, that's great. They looked at it as you lost 18 years because that compound interest, if you will, those results of what the market has done the last 2 decades, if your parents knew and they opened that for you on day one, you could have benefited from that. So I never thought about it that way, but then I realized when I have my son, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plan for his future since day one, so he has an advantage. And that's one of the things when I teach the community, that there's no point in waiting. Nobody ever got wealthy or made money just waiting around, right? You have to take action, and if you do it as soon as you can, or if you find out about it like when you're older, you can always have that opportunity with your kids, grandkids, so there's always an opportunity to start since the beginning.
Never too late, and it's great to have the education side. Look, I'm really looking forward. You're going to be doing some Spanish-speaking language commentary on markets. We're going to have Tony coming on. We're going to be interviewing guests both in English and Spanish, marquee leaders of the Latino community globally coming on. So there's going to be a wealth of content that's, I think, so educational, but really bridging communities, and I think that's so powerful.
Yes, just to be more inclusive, to bridge communities, and to be able to give, such a huge market out there. I mean, huge, 400 million people worldwide. Online, you can reach all of them, right? And in the United States, over 50 million Spanish speakers. That's a lot of people, and I'll tell you, a lot of them really, are either not fluent in English or really prefer their native language, like most people would. So I think it's going to be a breakthrough for sure.
Well, and I got to just talk briefly about it as well. The power of the Latino community as purchasing power, as creators, as contributors to the economy. So this kind of goes full cycle, if you will, for advertisers, people who want to reach that audience as well. So I think we have a magnificent opportunity together.
There's a huge opportunity. Look, even in the elections, right? They said we were the ones who made that happen. So there's a lot of power in the community for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Gabby, we are honored and thrilled. Looking forward to launching the episodes, talking about our partnership today with you and Tony. Thank you so much, and delighted to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Fintech TV. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
A 2-day losing streak on Fed Day, and some investors may have liked to have seen a rate cut, but they had a good feel for which way the Fed Reserve would be going beforehand. Chairman Jay Powell saying the Fed is ready to respond to any rise in unemployment or inflation. He also expressed uncertainty about tariff policy, saying the Fed will have to wait and see what impact the tariffs have. Meanwhile, Goldman Sachs is predicting 3 rate cuts this year starting in July, but Morgan Stanley doesn't think Powell and the Fed will cut rates until next year. year. Well, joining me here at the New York Stock Exchange to weigh in is Gabriela Verospi, who's the founder of Latino Wall Street. Gabby, thank you so much for joining me here at the New York Stock Exchange.
Thank you, Remy, for having me. Yes, so the interest rate decision, I don't think it was a surprise. We follow the Fed watch closely, so we knew we had like a 99% chance or something it was going to stay the same. We know Jerome Powell is not on the same page with the president. Trump wants him to cut rates. He's been, pushing for that. So, we kind of need our leaders to start working together, get on the same page, so that we have more clarity, because we've had so much uncertainty this year, and that hasn't helped the markets that much.
Well, in New York morning trade, we are looking at green across the board for the Dow, NASDAQ, S&P 500. Later on this morning, Trump will be back in the Oval Office, and he will be making an announcement regarding a trade deal between the U.S. as well as the U.K. And, of course, the Treasury Secretary Besson is heading to Switzerland. He will be meeting with Chinese officials as well. So what are your expectations when it comes to these deals? And do you expect to see more of a framework or actual numbers here?
So I think what's actually helping the markets today is more so the commercial agreements, right? The trade agreements that are going to be confirmed later today. So we know there's an agreement now with the UK, and this has been what the market has been waiting for, right? So kind of like, the Fed, we don't really have good news on that end. It's like a wait and see. But now with these trade agreements, they're also saying a lot more of them are coming up very soon, and they're in the final stages of negotiation. So I think these are great news. I think this will help the market a lot, and I think we'll just have to wait and see what do the agreements look like, right? Because it has to be a win-win.
Absolutely. And when we take a step back and look at the volatility for the month of April, you and I were talking throughout that month where we saw 1,000-point moves to the upside as well as downside for the Dow. But at the end of the day, when we look at where we are for all the major stock averages, it isn't as bad as expected. So given the macro landscape as we move forward for the rest of the year, what are your expectations when it comes to not just equities, but also bonds and other asset classes, especially this morning as we're looking at Bitcoin approaching 100K again?
Yeah, that's incredible. I think we're seeing a rush right now towards, specific assets. So of course, when the stock market is in the green, we're expecting trade agreements. They're about to be announced. That helps all risk assets, not just stocks, but also crypto. And also for gold, right? That has been the year of gold.
Yes.
With the more uncertainty we're going to have, the better gold is going to do. Now, it's been interesting because the pattern that's like stocks going up and gold going down and vice versa has been broken. So we're seeing something very similar than the pandemic. Actually reminds me of 2020 when the market crashed, and so did gold. So we have to remember that the correlations won't always be exact, but we can definitely expect that the more trade agreements we have, the better the assets in general will be. So we have to wait and see.
And in the meantime, while we're seeing this volatility and shift across the global landscape, there are also opportunities out there. So for viewers out there who are watching and they're looking for opportunities, where do you think they are right now?
So right now for me, the opportunities are definitely in commodities. That's what I'm focused on, because this year is so volatile that has been the winning trades, right? But you should never underestimate the main indexes, the S&P 500. If you're thinking very long term, like Warren Buffett says, right? I was just in Berkshire Hathaway with him at his annual conference. You're never going to lose if you stick to a super long-term strategy and you focus on what has worked for over 100 years. So never underestimate that. Always think long-term. But if you're looking short-term, what's going to do best? I really think commodities are the winning sector.
Okay, Gabby, great to have you here at the New York Stock Exchange. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Thank you, Ren.
My pleasure.
Latino Wall Street.
Latino Wall Street.
Latino Wall Street.
Latino Wall Street. Latino Wall Street. Latino Wall Street.
Gabriela Verospi.
Gaby Verospi.
Latino Wall Street.
Latino Wall Street.
Latino Wall Street.
Latino Wall Street.
Please help me welcome our host, the founder of Latino Wall Street, Gaby Wall Street.
Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Let me make sure you can see me. Can everyone see me and hear me? Just say yes. Perfect. So I want to acknowledge everyone for being here, for whatever it took for you to be here. You could be doing anything this evening, but you chose to be with us to learn. And there's a lot to cover this evening, okay? So I have some amazing special guests. We're gonna learn a lot about the markets, and most importantly, what can we do, right? Because let's be honest, there's so much going on right now out there in the world. It's a little bit overwhelming, right? And if you were watching the countdown, what I was explaining was that some patterns have been broken. So normally when the stock market goes up, a very common correlation historically has been that gold goes up. But recently, what happened, at least today, was that they were both going down. How come? That markets can't make up their minds about where they're going, what we're doing. We don't know what the government's next step is. We don't know if the war is going to escalate, if we're going to be officially involved. So there's so much uncertainty right now that when there's so much of that, some patterns get broken. But that's okay, okay? The message this evening is that we cannot control all the craziness that's out there. If you listen to every single thing, you'll just basically go crazy. You have to focus and focus always on what you can do, right? What can I learn and how can I empower myself so that I'm taking action because I have control of my finances. I have control of my investments. I know how to protect my capital, and I'm making smart decisions, not based on all the noise out there, but based on proven strategies and actual tools to help you with that. So that's what we're going over this evening. So I'm going to start welcoming our first guest. Okay, we have two special guests this evening. First, I'm going to bring on Newman and then Umar. And they're both from TradeZella, which we'll explain briefly what it's all about. But Newman is a professional futures and stocks trader at Blackline Trading with a background in management consulting and strategic advisory. He has a master's in strategy and finance and brings a blend of analytical depth and real-time market execution to his trading approach. He has experience across global markets. He now trades full-time, focusing on data-driven performance and trading psychology. He's currently based in Spain and Dubai and shares insights regularly on social media. So please help me welcome Newman. I'm gonna put him as a panelist, so you should be getting the request now. And we're gonna bring him on and we're gonna get started. So welcome, Newman. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Because I'm sorry if I mispronounce it. How are you?
Hi, Gabby. How are you doing? Can you guys see me? Can you guys hear me? Hi.
I can hear you perfectly, yes.
Perfect. Hi. Yes, I can hear you well as well. Thank you so much for having me tonight here. It's a pleasure to be here today. And yeah, thank you very much for a nice introduction.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so hopefully they can see you now. If you guys can double check. I think there's a way to, so they can see both of us, but as long as they can see you, since you're up, it should be fine. Not yet. Okay, 1 second. Let's make sure we spotlight. Okay, we should be good now. Okay, perfect. Let's go. Let's do it. So it's a pleasure to have you. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us to educate our community.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Asad. It's an honor to be here today. Yes, just picking up what exactly you said before, I think markets have become very, very interesting place these days. As you said, usually whenever there's a volatility, we always look at the past performance and we say, okay, previously, for example, if this has happened, then gold moved, or this sort of indices or whatever moved, and this time this is not the case anymore. Markets are very confused, as you said. We really don't know what is happening, and there's just a lot of confusion going on. So yeah, very, very interesting place.
Definitely confusion, but also fear, right? And that's what I want to make sure we address head on, because I don't want people to be scared. And unfortunately, more people than ever are actually pretty scared. They don't know what to do. They think sitting by the sidelines is the answer. By the way, Umar is here. So let's welcome Umar, the founder of TradeZella, a rockstar trader for over 10 years. He's based in Dubai and New York. And we've been talking about doing this for years, right, Umar? So I'm so happy it's finally happening.
Same here. What's going on, Gabby? Thank you for the introduction. Nice to see you as always. How's everyone doing?
Great, great. We're very excited about getting started with this webinar. I know you guys are very knowledgeable, and my community has been asking. As you know, we do everything mostly in Spanish, but I do have a bilingual community that's always saying, "What are we doing a webinar in English?" So there you go.
Noma knows a little bit of Spanish.
Really?
A little bit. He's shy. I mean, he lives in Spain, so yeah.
Oh, right. You can give it a shot if you want.
Give it a shot. Come on. Don't be shy.
I mean, I do, but it's always challenging, to translate all this vocabulary in Spanish, because you are so used to saying everything in English and every day, speaking in English and continuing with that. So honestly, like, there are a lot of words that I don't even know how to translate. So that's what I was talking to him before as well. I think it's better to just continue in English.
No, of course. I'm just kidding, guys. Amazing. So yeah, let's get started. I don't know, Umar, did you want to do a little intro about, all the craziness going on in the world? Make sure nobody's scared and everyone's, feeling fine.
Yeah. I mean, no one can add on to it a lot. He's a lot more in depth on the economic things going on to the world. So Noman, you want to kick it off?
Yes, great. Let me share my screen, guys. Please let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yes, perfect.
Great. Perfect. So let's just have a quick look at the current state of the market. As you said, I mean, the market has been very, very volatile. The major reason is that it's not able to determine what forces are at play, because you just have a lot going on. First, we started with the tariff war. Then the tariff war basically became to trade deals. When are they happening? What sort of trade conditions are we getting? From trade deals, then we moved to the new situation with Iran and Israel that led oil to spike. And as you all know, when oil spikes, basically we go into equities basically take a massive hit. And from that oil, then we went to FOMC, which happened yesterday. So there's just a lot going on. And as said, the noise is just a lot, right? And usually what traders do is that they look at the CNBC headlines and they go ahead and try to take a trade. For example, when this entire Iran war happened, we saw massive gap down overnight. And what did folks do? They looked at the CNBC news, and the first thing in the morning is that when the market is gapping down, the first thing they are doing is that they're just shorting the market, right? So it's not that easy, just to say, let's say, okay, if this is a red hot headline, so I'm gonna just go ahead and short the market, long the market. It's important to understand the bigger picture, the bigger context, and then basically taking it from there. So if we are just looking at the overall state of the market, even just the last week, S&P closed completely flat on the week. Qs were completely flat on the week. So we really did not see anything. We were waiting for the big Fed decision, which is basically FOMC, right? Fed came out with the very interesting outlook. They did not really lower the interest rates at all, but the most important part was the forward guidance, because the market was, hoping that we will see some sort of favorable guidance, and we really did not see that. So then we basically saw, the price action that was sort of then basically we saw a lot of chopping that was reflected in the price action on the session. So overall, despite a lot of challenges, whatever is happening, despite a lot of noise, as a trader, as a day trader, my job at the end of the day is to focus on what price action is telling me, right? As said, there's just a lot of noise, tariff noise. We have war, we have FOMC, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, if the market is holding a strong technical level, that is all I am focusing on, right? My job as a trader is just to focus on what price is telling me, right? So if we look at the price, market so far has been very, very resilient. S&P has been very, very resilient. Just looking very, very quickly, this is the S&P 500 chart, right? Every single time we are going into this 59.50, 59.80 zone, the dip has been bought, the dip has been bought, the dip has been bought, right? So what is happening in terms of, all the noise, I really don't care, what, as I said, this is where the trading, the fun part comes in. Is that okay? What to focus on? Do we focus on the noise, or do we focus on what the price is telling me? As a trader, my job is basically to focus on what the price is telling me. It is beautiful, it is amazing, and it is absolutely necessary to have a context, to establish an overall context. But at the end of the day, what I as a trader, what I'm going to do is to focus on what the price is telling me. And the price so far is telling me that, okay, the market has been very resilient. So that is basically from a day trading point, that's all what we focus on. And speaking from a day trading point of view, and then there becomes a question of, okay, how do you trade in such volatile environment when there's just a lot of noise going on, right? So that's where we say, okay, from noise, from all that noise, you have to filter that out and focus on what the price is telling me, right? And there basically I and we all heavily focus on, having a game plan, focusing on, what the market is telling, what the price is telling, and basically taking it from there.
Perfect. So they're already asking if you offer a class for beginners. And guys, we will be going over at the end a tool we recommend, okay, that they've actually created. So we will go over that. We're just going to continue, right? Newman, did you want to keep going, or is it Umar's turn?
I think Umar wanted to add something in here.
Yeah, I wanted to add on basically to what Noman was saying earlier. A lot of times when there's a lot of noise in the market, I think the first thing that happens is we as humans, we start to add our opinions to what we think should happen and how the market should react. And my whole thesis behind that is just focus on how the market reacts to things, right? We need to leave our opinions and what we think will or will not happen at the front door, and we have to look at how the market reacts, and then based on how the market is reacting, we have to know how to play that. In the past, I've been trading for a little over 11 now, maybe 12 years, and I've seen all sorts of crazy things happen in the markets, from wars to COVID, to a lot of election things that have happened, and every time, the only thing I can tell you from every time I've seen these things is just know how to react based off the market, not based off your opinions. And I think if you can leave your opinions to the front door and just go off like, hey, this is what the market cares about. It doesn't care what I think about. It doesn't care about I think the market should go up or down. Like during COVID, everyone thought the market's going to go lower, including myself. Market obviously did not factor that in. Market didn't care with the interest rates going lower and lower. So from like a wide economic point of view, market ended up going a lot higher. And people that were biased about it kind of missed out on that move. So yeah.
Yes, for sure. I always say take the emotions out, which I know is very hard for people because we're human beings, so we are emotional beings, and we obviously have emotions. But, sometimes it's good practice to just kind of distance yourself from all that stuff and just focus on what you need to focus on, which in this case are the indicators, your strategy, and very soon the new tools we'll be introducing.
Absolutely. That's why they say that, if you want to be a day trader, the first thing that you should do is to not look at CNBC and the news, if you want to.
Yeah.
And this is
You'll go crazy, right?
Exactly. And the newbies or anyone, who's starting out in this industry, the first thing is they do is that they put the CNBC TV on, and depending on what Kramer is saying or what other folks are saying, this stock is going to go higher or this thing is going to go lower. They go ahead and go and long or short the assets, right? Same thing. Okay, for example, when oil goes higher, S&P should move lower, and that's where a lot of people lose money, and that's a big problem, because at the end of the day, markets are not certain, right? We do not know what is going to happen. Yes, sure, we have some historical data. Yes, sure, we can, try to make some correlations and look at the probabilities. But at the end of the day, no one knows what is going to happen next, right? So all we have to do is to look at, okay, what price is telling us. This is the probability of this of certain outcome happening, but this is what my price is telling me. And based on what the price is telling me, my job is to react to that price, not predict the price, right? So that's why whoever, at Blackline as well, in TradeZella as well, the first thing that we say is that if you want to be a day trader, the first thing that you should do is to turn off the CNBC and turn off the news. You cannot trade using, all the noise and focusing on all that news.
Yeah, I think you'll just get scared and give up, and you won't even take action or do anything. If you just listen to the news all day, you're gonna be confused because the mainstream media was created to get your attention, right? So it's not gonna help when you're trying to focus on strategy and indicators and tools. It's just not gonna help. It's going to distract you. So focus on what matters and what you can control. That's the message.
100%, 100%. And that's where our basically TradeZella comes in. Umar, if you want to introduce, or basically I can go ahead as well.
You can go ahead. I'll add on, I think, wherever
Yes.
I need, I can add
Right.
in.
So basically, as I was saying before, again, the first thing that we teach, as said, is that nothing is certain, right? At the end of the day, you need to have a game plan. And what is a game plan? A game plan is basically laying out all the possible scenarios, right? And seeing, okay, this is the context of the week, this is the context of the day, whatever the case may be. And based on the story, what the market is running, these are my possible scenarios. These are the possible levels or the technical zones or whatever you want to call them. These are the zones that I'm looking at. And those are the areas where I am interested to buy the price or sell the price, right? So if you approach the market from a probability point of view, not really just try to sort of predict something, then your odds become way better, right? So just coming out from all that noise, XYZ, we focus on the game plan. This is the first thing that we teach, and everyone who joins Zella, it's the first thing that we teach anyone who comes at Blackline, right? So what is a game plan asset? For example, this is actually a screenshot of my game plan for this week, just 2 days ago from FOMC. What is the first thing that I have here is the weekly context. What is the weekly context? What is happening this week, right? So for example, this particular week, there was a lot going on the street. We had contracts rollover. What is a contract rollover? For those who don't know, S&P futures contracts get rolled over every quarter. So when that rollover happened, the volume becomes very, very minimal, and it takes time to pick up the volume. Traders reload their position. So that sort of becomes an event, right? So for example, that was a big event happening this week. We had FOMC Wednesday. That was a big event happening on the street. Thursday, holiday, right? Now we have a triple witching that is happening tomorrow. Now, that is also a very, very big event on the street, because this is the day basically when all the options, all the quarterly options get expired, right? So what happens? You get a very, very heavy volume spikes, and you get heavy moves, sort of random moves. And again, when you as a newbie trader, when you're trying to just catch random moves, or when you do not know the context, what's happening, you will likely lose the money, right? So with basically Friday low volume, as we have like sort of kind of 4-day weekend. So when there's low volume, there's not a lot of activity happening, right? There's not a high probability trade, right? So what are we doing here in this game plan is that we are trying to understand the context of the week, so to establish the thesis of the week. If I don't know what's the context if I don't know what's the context of the week, I'm basically approaching the trading session or approaching the week completely blind, right? So that is why we need to have a game plan. We need to understand what is happening overall in terms, what is the theme that the market is running. So on FOMC day, okay, what happens on FOMC day or FOMC week? The market usually does not move a lot. It does not move a lot because it basically waits for the Federal Reserves to release the interest rate decision and Chair Powell to go through his presser, give the outlooks on the economic growth or whatever the case may be, and then basically it basically takes it from there. And again, how a lot of people lose money is that, they try to trade every single day. It doesn't matter what's the context of the market. It doesn't really matter if it's FOMC or if it's not FOMC. They open their computer, see, okay, this is a green candle, I'm gonna go ahead and buy. This is a red candle, I'm gonna go ahead and short, right? Without knowing the context of the market, without having a proper game plan, without having, proper interesting, the levels where you want to react. So just going through my game plan, context of the week, context of the market, for the day, based on that, building up the scenarios on the day, basically, okay, these are the levels that I am interested in. If the market comes to those levels, I see that there's a possibility, for example, if there are passive buyers coming in, or if there are active buyers coming in, or whatever the case may be, then I could potentially take this trade, right? So again, this is a scenario game, and basically take it from there. So this is the most basic thing that we advocate for anyone who wants to get into trading. Do not buy based on the noise. Do not buy based on the headlines or whatever the case may be. Always approach the session with a complete game plan, with a complete routine, and then basically take it from there. Umar, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, so in simply, guys, the whole idea here is every day before you start your session, any trading session you start, you should have a game plan approaching that session. That should talk about, it should start off from obviously the weekly context of what is happening this week. So for example, this week we had the Fed meeting yesterday. So for example, starting this week's game plan, you should have known that. You should have known that the market cares about what is going to happen on Wednesday and how the Feds respond, in terms of what they do with interest rates. And then obviously before you start every single session, you should have a game plan in terms of what are there any economic news, what are the names you're watching, what are the levels you're watching. And then the idea there, right, there's two things that start happening. The idea is not to get this game plan that you build out to be perfect, but the idea is to have a game plan. So when you do mess up and when things don't go the way they're supposed to go, you're able to identify what it is. So for example, if you come into today and you're saying, hey, I am looking to trade ES at 60.34, but you haven't realized that FOMC was today. Now what starts to happen in that situation is when you trade that day and you mess up or you're caught up in chop, you're like, oh man, I missed out on the economic events. Or you might say, hey, I think a key level of support, just going super basic, a key level of support is 6,030 on ES. But then when the action happens, you realize that that was not the key level where the market actually used as a support. So you go back to that and you go, okay, these are things I need to improve. These are things that I'm doing well. And you start having a framework to actually start improving off that.
Yes, that's a great point. The economic data, we do need to know that. So for example, Market Watch is a tool that I always check every Monday morning. So I know what's happening that week, and inflation data, Federal Reserve, interest rates, all that stuff is going to affect the markets directly. So we do want to know. And at the end of the day, those are numbers, right? It's what was the data? Right? Was it worse than expected, better than expected, or the same? So that is important. That's not, what we mean by, oh, don't pay attention to the noise. That's definitely not noise. That's data. So it's important to understand the difference.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And one thing is, again, understanding the data, but also how the market is reacting to the data, right? If something is, for example, if a stock is reporting earnings and it's better than expected, and then everyone is expecting the stock to run, but it dumps. So then the question becomes, everyone starts asking why it's dumping, right? So then those are also, as I said, just the points that you have to take care of in terms of not having a bias, understanding the data, but also telling what the price is telling you.
Amazing.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think if you want to go to the next slide, Nomi.
Yeah. So As said, one thing is having a game plan and having everything clear, but also then focusing on, okay, what is my strategy that I want to take, right? What is my setup on the day? What exactly is I'm looking at? If I'm looking at, I don't know.
Just one question for everyone here. I mean, you guys can probably write it. You can probably write in the chat. Who here has a strategy or a playbook? If you do, write yes. If not, write no. And I'll tell you why I'm asking.
Yeah, so the question is, do you have a diary? Do you have
Do
somewhere
you have
where
a
you
strategy? Yeah. Do you have any strategy or anything in terms of that's consistent?
or do you keep track of it, right? Because some
Yeah, at
people
least
think they have a strategy, but they don't. It's
yeah.
not the case.
Not someone said ORB opening range breakout. No, or sometimes no. I have a diary, but not really consistent. Yes, stocks, ETFs. No. Okay. So for the people that are saying no, this is one thing you need to kind of establish like yesterday, right? This is something you should have. That's number one. Number two, for the people that said yes, my question to you comes down to what is your entry criteria, which no one will cover right now. Is it repeatable? Like, can you repeatedly make money with this approach? Or is it like you made money one day and then you lost money the next day and then you made money and the entry criteria were inconsistent? Like when I say if you have a playbook, your entry criteria should be so consistent where you can take that, give it to someone else, explain how it is, and they could understand it and repeat it. If that can't be done, then you don't have a good playbook slash strategy. And by the way, I'll use the word playbook or strategy. They're both interchangeable and both relatively the same thing, right? So if you don't have one, you need to build one. And if you do have one, it needs to be very kind of thought out. So we'll cover that right now. So what the strategy focuses on. Every strategy and every playbook should have an entry criteria. It should have rules based on if X, Y, and Z happen, this is what will allow me to go and take this particular trade. So, no one, you can go. You can go ahead. You're muted.
Great. So again, as Umar said, what doesn't matter whatever the type of strategy is, the most important part is, okay, if it's working, right? What are the stats? What's your entry criteria? What's your exit criteria? What exactly are you looking at? For example, when you're looking at taking a specific trade. So this is just an example of one playbook that we have on TradeZella. There are a couple of playbooks actually. I'm going to quickly go ahead through actually a very, very interesting playbook. Wait, let's go.
Also, just for context, if you guys want playbooks or you just want to see some examples of stuff, here is something. Can I just share my screen really quick? If that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Be able to.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
So if you guys go here on TradeZella, resources, is profit playbooks. If you just click there, we have a few playbooks here, as you guys can see. Directional auction by Noman, my 5-stage trading framework, low volume node. So for example, if you click any one of these, let's say you click the low volume node, there's a video for it, right? And then there's like, what the entry criteria is, how to set the target, what the risk management is, what the trade looks like, what does the trade need to happen, what are the pros, what are the cons, trade breakdowns, examples, what was used. And then a lot of things we're talking about now in 5-stage trading framework, you guys can find it, what that kind of looks like and how it essentially works on the whole stages. So here's some examples of playbooks. I'm not saying to go replicate these playbooks for yourself tomorrow, but it should give you an idea of how a playbook looks like and how you should actually build out your strategy.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So did you guys want to explain how did you come up with TradeZella? And you didn't start off right by having that. You were a trader for a long time, and then you realized there was a need. There was something missing. People needed a framework. They needed a tool. And did you guys want to share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, so the whole idea of TradeZella, just to go into that, and we'll kind of run through a little bit of that as well. So for me, I mean, like I said, I've been trading for 12 years. And one thing I had a problem with was keeping all my data in one place and getting insights from my data in terms of what is good, what is bad. And then the idea there was just, hey, let's build a tool that allows me and other traders, right? Ultimately, it was for me and like it was an internal tool, allows me to track my data, track my playbook, see what's working, see what's not working, have a notebook, kind of have a full A to Z process that lets me just kind of, understand the pros and cons of things that are going well or not well in my trading. And I'm a big fan of, whatever you track and measure will automatically get improved. So if you are tracking stuff and you are focusing on things, you will be able to improve it. So for example, a lot of people here, right, just a question, and I'm just going to reframe this. Imagine you see a trade where you're up $2,000, right? And if you're up $2,000 on a trade, automatically you think, hey, this trade that I'm up $2,000 on is a very powerful, profitable trade. Now, what if on that trade you were down maybe a couple of $100, right? Or maybe you were down $4,000. So I'll show you an example just to kind of give you an idea of what I mean. So you guys have an idea. And these are things that are very powerful, right? So for example, if you guys see this trade, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Here's a Tesla trade, right? So if you guys look at this, like, oh, wow, you made $483. Great, phenomenal. Now, when we go into this trade and we see kind of the running P&L, we're able to see that at one particular point, while I was holding this exact trade, I was down $4,286. Now, if I was to go here and I was to show you this, now in the comments, let me know, do you think this was a good trade? No, right? This was definitely not a good trade because I was down $4,286 at one point, but I made $483. So the idea of when you start tracking your trades and you start doing it from an intentional point of view, you start seeing like, okay, I bought this, I got into this trade, I went long, and then I exited. So I took a big loss here. The trade obviously maybe went up afterwards, but however, my entry here was bad. My entry here was delayed. And then when I look at my tags, I'm like, I spent most time in drawdown, red to green trade. It was a bad trade. Drawdown was more than profit. So obviously I was down $4,200, but even though I was green, that's a terrible trade. So me being able to look at things like that just kind of gives me a lot more context, right? It allows me to just see like, okay, well, what is working, what isn't working, like, right? So even if I go to this trade, right, I can relatively see the same exact thing. If I go to, I don't know, let's say I go to, I don't know, 25th. Is it not popping up? Let's say I go to the 18th, right? Let's say I go to this trade, right? If I go to this trade, I can kind of see a whole different story. This trade, I've shorted this trade, right? And when I shorted this trade, I can see that, hey, at one point I was up $32,000. I made 23,000, but why did I not maximize this trade? And seeing small things like that, right, just gives you a whole different perspective on your trading. It gives you a perspective of like, okay, well, what am I doing well? What am I doing wrong? And then obviously if I go into this kind of review, I can see what my entry, what my position size was, what my exit was, what rating am I giving it for whatever reasons. Same thing with my key takeaways. So doing this on a consistent basis just gives me as a trader a lot of clarity on that particular trade. So same thing with this trade, right? If I go to this trade, right, and I'm like quote unquote tracking it and journaling it, I'm looking at that particular trade. I have a screenshot of that day, what happened. I have my insights, right? I ended the trade with $483. However, I missed the best exit, my holding time analysis, my MAE, MFE analysis. What was my overall recap? What were the lessons? And me doing this on a consistent basis on trades allows me to see what within that trade idea did I do well and what within that trade idea I did bad, right? And this is something a lot of traders miss, right? They don't have this well-defined process and they don't look into each and every single trade. And my question to every trader goes, hey, if you have a red or green trade, because it's red or green, do you label it as a good trade or a bad trade, right? And most of the time, if people see a red trade, they'll go and say, oh, this was a terrible trade. And I'm like, why? Because I lost money. And I'm like, well, that's not a good basis to label a trade bad. Okay, what about this trade? That was green. Was it good or bad? And they're like, oh, it was profitable, so it must be a good trade. And I'm like, no, that is not the framework to look at your data. The framework to look at your data is number one, did I follow my plan, right? And the plan could be something as simple as I wanted to risk $1,000, but I lost 2,000. That's a bad trade. If your plan was to risk 1,000 and you lost 1,000, you fall within the area of following a good plan. The second thing is if you, let's say, go into a trade and your trade playbook was opening range breakout and you didn't follow the checklist, but you still made money, that to me is a bad trade. Then it goes down to if you made $3,000 on a trade, but you were in drawdown of $7,000, I don't care if you made 3,000, I don't care if you made 2,000, I don't care if you made 4. terrible trade, terrible trade, terrible trade. So those things, just kind of putting those things in together and looking at trades from a subjective point of view of like data, what does the data of this trade tell me, allows you to now become a better trader. What I see a lot of people doing, and this is why they're stuck on a cycle, is they get started in trading and they just start throwing darts at the wall, right? Of like, I think this is a trade I should take. I don't think I should take that trade. And because they don't have that process, that ultimately just makes their trading really messy.
Yes, exactly. So basically, what's missing in people's lives when it comes to getting results, it's a framework and it's the right tools, right? The right framework, the blueprint, and the tool is what's going to make all the difference in the world in your results. So basically, that's why they created TradeZella, right? To fix that issue that so many people have with consistency.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's the whole point of like being able to see, what within your data is bad, what within your data is good, what within your data is like working. And I think that itself just gives, traders so much more context of like improving in terms of like what are the things that they need to improve on. And the reality is most traders don't really have that framework. So here I'll show you guys something else. I'll show you another dashboard. And these are things, right? These are things that I think all traders should have. So here's an account, right? So if I go onto this account, you guys should be able to see, right? Just looking at data, what net P&L is, and this number is irrelevant. So a lot of people, they look at net P&L, they're like, oh, this account made, X amount. This number I don't care about, and no one here should ever care about this number. And I'll tell you the numbers you should care about and why, right? So let's all collectively switch our mindset from one thing and one thing only, and let's not care about P&L, right? Because I think the moment we start thinking about P&L, especially when we're in developing phases, it gives us a wrong metric to focus on. So what is the good metric to focus on? The one of the best metrics to focus on, in my opinion, is average win to loss ratio. So what does this mean? This means on average, I am making 3.25 on my winning profits compared to my losing trades, right? So my losing trades are 2.5K, my winning trades are 8.1K, right? These are my winning trades. This is a good metric. This kind of automatically tells me if I am taking a trade, this is what I'm losing, this is what I'm making. Obviously, I have a good win percentage, which in this situation is good. But even if this win percentage, for example, guys, went down to like 30% and this stayed, or let's say this went down to 40%, I would still be profitable. Then it goes down to what is my max drawdown. This is very interesting. What was my max drawdown compared to my peak? 8%. Not bad, right? So when you start looking at your stats from that perspective and you start going into your data and you start seeing like, okay, what is happening in this particular trade? How is this trade kind of adjusting? And even when I look at, some of my trades, I'm like, okay, well, what is happening? My average loss is going down, right? My average loss per trade is going down. My win percentage, is remaining well. My average win per trade is slowly increasing. You guys can see from here is 4,300. And then it's going to 7,100. This is increasing while that's going down. So over time during that year, I've gotten better at managing my trades. I've gotten better at managing, winners and letting winners run. I've gotten better at cutting losers while I remained on the same win percentage. So this, just looking at this and cutting out this number, this is good. This is a good view. This is a good graph. This number is contingent on how much I'm putting into a trade. So for some people, this might be 5 million. For someone, it might be 50. For someone, it might be 5,000. But that's all kind of dependent on how well these stats and numbers look like. So if I'm able to replicate that for that period, that gives me a good idea. Another thing to look at is R multiple. So if I look at an R multiple, right, it'll show me that, hey, I made 87 R, right? So if I, let's say, go back to a particular month, let's say I go to 2023 and I look at May, or I go to, September, let's say October. What this is saying is October of 2023, and no one here needs to know how much money this account made. I made 61 R. I made 61 times what I would have risked. So this day I made 2.6 R. You don't know if I made $2,000. You don't know if I made 20. Doesn't matter. What matters is whatever I risked, I made 2.68 R of that, 2.21 R of that. 4.89 of that. So these are stats that we as traders, when we start focusing on these and we start looking at it, it gives us a much better overview of our data and much better overview of what is actually the good things to look at. right? And even if I go here, P&L doesn't matter. I'm up 46R. So what that essentially means is if I risked $1,000 on a trade, and I made 4R, I made 4,000. If I risked 2,000 on a trade and I got a 4R, I made 8,000. So the R component stays relatively the same. It's just the return becomes a lot better.
Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, because as you can see, tracking, it's going to be the most important thing you can do. And I really think that's in general, not just with trading, in every industry. If you want to be truly successful and you're committed, you have to start tracking your results, right? It's kind of like the only way you can measure progress. And this is not about perfection, far from it. Trading is never going to be perfect. But if we track and we stay on top of all these things, we'll start noticing patterns. And once you notice patterns, you will get better.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that's where it's very important to just kind of have that framework of, the patterns and the framework of what it is that's working and what isn't working, right? And I think a lot of people tend to, miss that and they don't have that data. I think once you kind of collectively have that data, it just gives you so much information. And for people asking, does it automatically or just the tracker? I mean, everyone can see my screen, right?
Yes.
I mean, this is all automatic. So, I mean, you just go to add trade, you obviously select what account it is. And then, if it's a particular account, let's say this account or that account, you can just add trades, right? You can do it via CSV upload, or you can connect with the broker, depending on what broker it is. Someone also asked, can you backtest? Yeah, you can go right here, backtesting. I can create a session. Let's say I create Apple MES. I can play the session. I can go back in time. I can play data. I can buy. I can sell, right? I can see what my P&L is. I can close the position, and I can kind of track the data for there, right? I can kind of track what's happening, what's not happening, and just essentially get better. So yeah, you can backtest.
That's amazing. This is an amazing software, and I know how hard you guys have worked on it. And for the ones who don't know, to create a software from scratch, it costs a fortune, right? I don't know if you guys are allowed to say.
Yeah, we're not allowed to say, but yeah, it costs a good chunk of money.
It's ridiculous, right? It's very expensive to create it, and they've created it for us, so now we can benefit and actually do it. So did you guys have any more questions before we walk you through how you can actually sign up? We do have a discount code for Latino Wall Street. Okay, so if you guys are ready to take action, we will be sharing that with you so you can save some money when you register. Any other questions though? Anything we went over? TradeZella, the first part of the class. Any questions for us?
Just real quick, people, we're not a broker. We connect to your broker. So if you add a new account, you can see we have a lot of different brokers here. If you're using CTrader, TradeLocker, MetaTrader, Thinkorswim, Charles Schwab, TradeOvate, Top Step, Interactive, you can put it in here, right? We have a lot of different brokers, depending on, whoever we connect to. Let's say you have Interactive, right? Interactive brokers, just go here, continue, auto sync, file upload, or you can add manually if you want. But if you auto sync, here you go, you just put in your information and it syncs all your past data, right? Not just your new data, but all your past data for a year or 2 years, all comes down here in one kind of push.
That's wild. I love that option that you can actually sync whatever your broker is to TradeZella, right? So TradeZella is the tool that connects to the broker. Most people here, I know for a fact, are either on Interactive Brokers or Thinkorswim. So it will work perfectly with it. Okay, you just need to have an account. About teaching, right? Some people are like, oh, but what about some tutorials, some education, some teaching?
We have that whole here. So we have a whole Zella University, right? So if you guys can see my screen, there's like, a lot of different sessions that are all here, journaling and game plans and, trade recaps and risk management and leaving money on the table. Like there's a lot of content here, right? Of just different videos for educational purposes. And we do have a community. It's a free community. If you want to join us in Discord, if it's probably on our website, you guys can join that as well. It's free. And then also if you guys, it's right here. So if you go on the website, just click Discord, you guys can join the community. And then also in resources, we have like Zella University here. You guys can like introduction to trading, order flow. This is all free. getting set up, market foundation, candlestick charts, price action, auction market theory, understanding order flow. So you go here, here's everything. What is order flow? The relationship between volume and price, how order flow works, right? The different tools. So there's a lot of, intro education and free. So you don't have to sign up for this. This is all on the website for free. And then obviously the profit playbooks, right? We're going to be uploading more. We did a partnership with Chart Fanatics. So if you guys go to any of these videos, all the videos are there. So it's like 5-stage framework, which I highly recommend everyone to go through and read. This will cover everything, right? Well, what the steps are, what the stages are. Stage one, how to get to stage one, go to stage two, how to go to stage three, how to go to stage four, and then stage five. And then there's a whole 2-hour video on it too, if you want to watch it. By the way, all free.
That's awesome. Yeah, so what he's saying is there's a bunch of content that you can start watching, but obviously if you want the actual playbook, right, the actual to track all your trades and all that stuff, that'll be with a subscription. We do have a code if you guys want to sign up and save money. Okay, so when you go on that website, you will basically, one second, if you just click on it, you'll be able to see, so we can walk you guys through it. So this is the website, right? So you just click on it, and then this is what he was mentioning. The free content is here, right? You said under resources, I think, under the Zella University.
Yeah. They can just go there.
So under Zella University, you can start watching all this free education. These are all tutorials, material, all that stuff that you need. And then, if you want to actually become become it's actually incredible how affordable it is. It blows my mind away because I know how expensive it is to create a software, but you guys are very, generous by offering such affordable opportunities. And you can do it monthly, you can do it yearly, and you can save if you put our code. So let's say you choose yearly, right? If paid $288 annually, which is an amazing deal, and you put it on, if you put our code, it would actually bring you down to $230 for the whole year, which is a no-brainer. It's more about you guys are committed to to making this happen and taking action. You can learn. That's why we're always going to recommend to learn as much as you can. But at some point, right, all this learning, we have to apply it. We have to take action. We have to have a playbook, track the trades so we can get results, right? So that's my recommendation for everyone this evening. I don't know if there's any more questions or if you guys have anything else that we forgot maybe to go over.
No, I mean, if any questions anyone has, I'm more than happy to answer. No one's more than happy to answer, trading related or anything else related. My only thing, once again, is for everyone is to have a repeatable, trackable process. Be it you don't use TradeZella, be it you use a notebook, whatever it is. Obviously, TradeZella is there as a tool, right, to make life easier and simpler. But if you want to use a notebook, whatever it is, whatever you want to use, even Excel, just have something where you have a repeatable process and you're able to go through your week-to-week data and have a good understanding of your trading, right? You should know why you were red last week and what issues you made, and you should know what are you working on currently this week. You should know how you deal with drawdowns and how you deal with, letting winners run and all these different things that pop up in trading.
Exactly. A couple of people say link doesn't work. It should work. If not, you can just go to a website and apply the code manually, like I did here. Okay, just apply it manually. So it's very simple, very straightforward. It's in resources. Again, it's all the content that Umar just showed that you can start learning this evening and get started. It's where you actually sign up. Okay, so that's all the stuff that he went through, how to track and all this stuff. You would need an account for that, so it can link to your broker and you can start, doing that. But that doesn't mean you can't, read more, learn more. We will always recommend that. One question, guys: will you guys be working on some sort of a translation at some point, or is it mostly?
Yeah, that's the plan this year. We want to kind of have a translation one on the website, so for all of our free content, and also to use the platform as well. Right, so a lot of things should be translated into Spanish. I don't have a date yet, but that is something that we are going to work on.
Perfect, amazing. Amazing. Great. Someone asked something about scalping. What account size do you recommend to start scalping?
I mean, before you go to account size and what size you should scalp, my question is the scalping you're doing now, even if it's with $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000, how long have you been doing it? Is your process like your strategy for scalping? Is it proven? Is it repeatable? Like, have you been repeatedly doing it on a smaller account? And then in terms of what size you should scalp, that's on you, right? I think you can scalp with 5K or 2K. Obviously, the returns are different on every number size and position size. So I think that's kind of more on you in terms of what are you comfortable putting into the market. But before you go and put a lot of money in, you have to have something that did work for some time.
Yeah, very important to take that into consideration. And if we pay TradingView, which I think a lot of people do here, pay TradingView, can we replace it with this platform, or does it have the same features?
Sure. So TradingView is a charting platform. We're more of a journaling backtesting software, right? So we both do two different things. TradingView, you can go chart real stocks, where for us, you don't really chart stocks. You kind of come to us before trading, during trading, and after trading. So we don't have like a full-on charting platform. So to answer that, no, you wouldn't replace them with us or us with them.
Yeah. And this is good for stocks, options.
Stock, options, Forex, futures, CFDs, everything.
Oh, wow, everything. That's amazing. Perfect. Okay, so that was very helpful. I think these are great, this is great information and great tools to have. And again, you can read all the information, learn more. The information it's available. It's free, but again, what are you going to do with that information is the question, right? Are we going to apply it? Because I always say information without execution, it doesn't help much.
Yeah. No, of course. And someone asked, how secure is it to share broker credentials to your system? Very secure. I mean, all of the data that comes is encrypted. Also keep in mind, for us to work with a lot of brokers like Charles Schwab, Fidelity, and so on, we do have to go through a process to make sure all the data that comes is highly, highly encrypted. So none of the data gets stored and anything. It just connects a read access to your broker only. So with TradeZella, you can never execute trades. We can never see your bank account or anything. The only thing it pulls in is the trades you have taken. And we've done that on purpose just because we don't need anything else beyond that for you guys to use us.
Exactly. But they do get plenty of education. It's not like they don't, because some people are saying, I'm a beginner, I'm starting from scratch and I want to do this. This tool seems amazing. I need the journaling and I need to backtest and track and all this stuff. But maybe they feel like they're too much of a beginner. They will get one-on-one content, right? Through the website, like what you share.
Yeah, there's a lot more content coming, like the Zella University. And by the way, you don't have to sign up for this, guy. So it's not like, oh, we're saying sign up and you have to pay. It's all free. So you can go here, any content, anything you want to learn, price action.
All this is free.
All this is free. So you don't have to go through a paywall. And we're gonna upload more and more content. So if there's things missing here, which there are, we're gonna keep uploading. We're gonna keep giving you resources. And like I said, there's free strategies too. So Gabby, if you scroll up, to resources, sorry.
Oh, to resources.
Yeah. Profit playbooks again. So all playbooks, meaning playbooks, once again, are interchangeable with strategies. So all the strategies are in here. A lot of strategies we're uploading more and more. So probably in the next 3 months, we'll have another 25, 30 different strategies for stocks, options, futures, and so on. And all of this, once again, is free. There's no paywall. There's no anything. The only thing we say is, hey, we're here to help you track your data and give you as much as resources as possible. So whenever you're ready for that, come on. If not, we have a free Discord, free education, free everything. It's just given out.
Yes, the information is free. It's available right now if you want to start watching and reading and then learning, which is what I'm always going to recommend. And of course, then if you want to go have your account and connect it to your broker, that's highly recommended as well. So you can start improving, right? Because at the end of the day, everyone wants results. So this is a proven way. Did you guys want to share a story about someone maybe who before they signed up, how they were doing, and after? What happened?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, I can talk about myself, right? In terms of just the simplest way, it's in terms of tracking and analyzing data. I think just myself, even now, like and once again, I've been doing it for 11, 12 years. Even now, like I have weeks where just to explain something to you guys very simple, right? So for example, last 6 months, right, 2025 in trading for anyone that's traded before has been very different and not the same as terms of the last 4 years. And I think a lot of times when you're tracking data and you're tracking your stuff, and you see a shift in your approach and you see some playbooks or strategies that were working and aren't working now, I think it allows you to just go deeper into that and be like, okay, well, I'm noticing, actively that this strategy is not working or I'm switching something. And having that data in front of you just allowed me personally to step back and see the times when I go on tilt or see a time when I go on drawdown and kind of fix that, right? That itself makes a big difference.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I want to thank you guys for your time. I think this was great. I will have a recording if you missed it, if you came halfway and you're a little confused because you didn't get the first part, don't worry. I will be providing the recording so you can see the full class again if you would like. And that's all. Thank you everyone for joining us. And thank you guys for all you do to educate the community and to create a software that, again, I know is the craziest amount of work. So I acknowledge you guys for that, for playing full out. And, I know that it's massively successful because it works, right? And that's what matters. So we need something that works. So this works, and I'm very happy to share it.
Thank you. And thank you everyone else for giving us an hour of your time. Hope this was very helpful for everyone. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you so much.
Have a good evening. Thanks.
Thank you. You too. Bye.